Hi there. In this video, I'm going to go over the very basics of how Ableton Live works so you have some understanding of the interface and workflow before we begin creating music. If you already have a decent idea of how Live works and you would like to move straight on to creating music, feel free to skip these next 3 videos. So this is what Ableton Live should look like when you open up a new session, or set as it is called. The first thing I want to mention is that Ableton Live has a hint panel called the Info view. To access it, go down this triangle at the bottom left. So you can show and hide it by clicking on this icon. This is a very useful feature that I'd recommend you keep open if you're a beginner. When you hover your cursor over something in Ableton Live, this info box will give you a brief description of the feature or area. For example, if I hover over some of the icons at the top, the info view will give a brief description. This is really useful if you ever get stuck, so I'd recommend leaving it open while you're learning the software. Right, now let's start looking at the main interface of Ableton Live. As you can see, it's split up into a number of different areas. Each of these areas have different uses in the music production process. The first area I want to talk about is a browser, and that is this area over here. If you cannot see your browser, click on the triangle at the top left here. This area is used to access all of your instruments, sounds, and effects. These can be things such as software instrument presets. For example, a bass synth or a keyboard sound to use on a MIDI track. We also have audio samples. For example, drum loops or melodies to use on audio tracks. As you can see, we've got loads of different samples in here. We also have things such as audio effects to use when mixing. So the different items in the browser can be loaded onto different tracks in Ableton Live while you're creating music. The browser makes Ableton really quick and easy to use, as you can access files and plugins very quickly. Right, the next thing I want to talk about is the session view. I'm just going to open up a project that I've already been working on so I can explain this. So this area in the middle here is the session view. So there are 2 main views in Ableton Live, the session view and the arrangement view. Right now we're looking at the session view. If you're not currently looking at the same view as me, you can swap between the 2 views by pressing the tab button on your computer's keyboard, or by clicking on the 2 little icons at the top right here. This top one will open up the arrangement view, and the bottom one will open up the session view. So I'm going to focus on the session view first, which is this area here. Here we can see our different tracks listed across the session view. So each of these columns is a different track. For example, we've got drums track, bass track, melody track, etc. Each of these play back different musical parts. We have both MIDI and audio tracks here. So MIDI and audio tracks are slightly different, but they're both used to create musical parts. Simply put, MIDI is used to digitally write in or record musical information, which is then turned into audio using a software instrument. Audio tracks are slightly different. They're used to play back audio samples, for example, drum loops or recorded vocals. Now, on each of our tracks, you'll notice that they have a number of these little rectangles. The grey ones are empty clip slots, and the coloured ones are clips which have been placed into a clip slot. So we create clips which hold MIDI or audio information, and these can be used to store your different musical ideas. So if I click on this drums clip here, and open up the clip view selector with this little tab at the bottom here, we'll be able to see the MIDI information that is in this clip. If I was to click on another MIDI clip, we can see here this is the MIDI information that we have stored. If I click on an audio clip, you'll see this display is different. We are now seeing the audio file which is stored in this clip. So clips can be played back to jam out different ideas to help you build a song. You can loop clips or play them back at different times to help you come up with musical arrangements. To play back a clip, simply press the little play icon. You can pause a clip by pressing the spacebar, or stop a clip by pressing on the stop button on the track, or the stop all clips button over on the right here. So you can play back different clips at different times. I'll just show an example. You could also play back multiple clips at the same time by pressing the play button on the scene. The scene is this area over here under the master track. So you can start and stop clips at different times during playback to start structuring your ideas. Right, I'll just quickly skim over how you can create clips now. First of all, I'll look at an audio track. So this track here, bass audio, is an audio track. I'll explain how you can distinguish between an audio and a MIDI track later on in this class. So the easiest way to create an audio clip is by dragging in an audio sample. So I'd go over to my browser, go down to samples, then I can click and drag a sample onto an empty clip slot. Now, in this clip, we have this audio sample. Alternatively, you can record audio into a clip. So for example, if you have a microphone, you could record your voice or an instrument. Again, I'll be showing you how to do this later on in the class. Now, MIDI clips are created in a slightly different way. The most simple way to create a MIDI clip is by double-clicking on an empty clip slot. So I'll just choose this one here on this arpeggio track. This will open up the MIDI note editor. In here, we can write in musical information using MIDI. Again, the other alternative is you can record in MIDI. To do so, you can use a MIDI controller, but you can even use your computer's QWERTY keyboard to play in musical information. The information in the MIDI note editor will then be played back by the instrument that is loaded onto the track. Again, I'll be showing you how to do all of this in detail in later videos. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how the software works before we get into making music. In the next video, I'm going to show you the arrangement view. Thanks for watching.